I guess one of the questions is why autonomy? Why even be interested in this concept of autonomy? I've got two daughters. I've got a little 6-month-old and a 2.5-year-old. And my little 2.5-year-old told me the other day she can drive. She's a big girl now, and she can drive. So often we're going to the car and she's, I'll drive, and I'm going, no, Daniela, not quite big enough yet. I'm a big girl now. Who else has got kids? Okay, the majority of you. And it's a real journey watching children grow. And I guess one of the questions I was asking myself while putting this presentation together is, why do we want autonomy? Why do we want our children to be autonomous? Why do we want them to be autonomous? So they'll be able to function without us. Yeah, absolutely. What else? Yeah? To be resilient. Yep, so we want them to be in a place where they're autonomous and can be resilient. Yeah, absolutely. Well, they have to be resilient often to be autonomous. Yep.
To be responsible.
To be responsible. So we want them to be autonomy, to be responsible. Yep. Yep.
So
What's the real reason? So they can make their own decisions. Yep. So they can leave home. That's the real reason. You know, come up with all these fancy, great ideas, but really, let's just be truly honest. The reason we want them to be autonomous is so they leave home. And it's really interesting. There's in terms of the natural life cycle of life, every little animal, insect, goes through a journey to autonomy and then dies. But a journey to autonomy is such an important part of a life cycle. It's critical. It's critical for the success of human beings to get to a place of autonomy. It's critical for development. It's critical for learning. We wouldn't be getting better and improving. We wouldn't be, the technology we have today is partly a function of autonomy. So it's such an important part of our entire life and life cycle. I grew up in South Africa. There's a great story about, well, it's not a story, it's how leopards function. Now, a leopard is a cat, and leopards are fascinating wild cats. They mate for life, so they have a single partner. They don't live together, so they actually live in separate territories. Maybe we should learn something from that. But they mate for life. And what happens is then they get together, they mate, the female goes back to her territory, male gets back to his territory, and then the female has cubs, and usually between 3 to 4 cubs per litter. And for 2 years, the female leopard does everything. The female leopard goes and kills the food, brings it back, and these little cubs, they play, they eat, they sleep. They play, they eat, they sleep. That's what they do. As they get a little bit older, they get to a year and a half, they start then going out with mum, but they don't do anything. They just sit and watch while mum goes and kills the antelope and brings it back again. So these leopards for the first 2 years, have an absolute ball. It's a great life. Then one day, the mother leopard goes out, makes another kill, brings the antelope back or the kill back, and then she leaves. And she leaves for good. She disappears. She goes to a whole new territory. Now these cubs have got no idea. They just sit there, ooh, no, there, thanks for the food. Have a bit of a nibble and a munch, and then they go back to sleep. And then they wake up, mum's gone. They think, oh, that's not unusual, because mum's often out going to go and get food. And then that night, mum's not back, and think, well, a bit odd, but sometimes it happens. The next day, still mum doesn't come back, but they're not too worried. They just sleep and relax and take it easy. By the second and third day, now they start thinking, this is interesting. Mum's not back yet. I'm getting a little bit hungry. And so the leopards start, most of the cubs at this stage start thinking, I'm a little bit hungry, but they're still at a stage where they think, mum will be back. So they just lie around. They just sit around waiting. And eventually, by the fourth or fifth day, they get hungry enough to actually start trying to look for their own food source. So they start having a go. So they run around, chase a couple of birds. And eventually, one or two of them will be successful. They kill a little bird or a rabbit or something. And that is the most important part of their journey to autonomy. So, and what happens is then they start learning, they survive, and they can realize they can actually make the kills and they can live on their own. It is interesting though, because some cubs die in that process, in that they don't actually get to that stage of being successful. And they don't survive. But there's a couple of key messages here. And for mums in the room, this is also a key message. Sometimes, to facilitate autonomy and independence, the mother has to leave. So you don't wait for the kids to leave. That's crazy. They'll be there until they're 30, 40. Sometimes the mum has to initiate the leave. Okay? So sometimes, in order to facilitate autonomy, mum has to go, right, it's up to you, off you go. But have to go. Second thing is that often, and particularly in the case of leopards, they have to get to a point where they're actually almost on that border of survival. The survival need kicks in. I actually have to look after myself. Damn it. And that trigger, I have to look after myself, is what kicks into then looking after themselves. And then, so what it means as a mum is that when you've got children, sometimes you actually just have to let them sometimes have a tough time to be able to facilitate that instinct, that survival instinct. I'm a huge fan of survival instinct. I believe in talking about resilience. What kicks resilience off is a strong survival drive. People who don't have a strong survival drive are not resilient. Now I'll share that with you because I guess I want you to really start thinking about what is this journey to autonomy really actually all about? And what does it involve? And what's my role in it? What do I need to be doing to facilitate that? What's the school's role? What does the school need to be doing? But really trying to start thinking about it. And the journey to autonomy is not just some simple, this is what you do, boom, boom, boom. It's actually, it's such an important part of our lives. And so I'm hoping that through our discussions today, I'm going to challenge your thinking around this journey to autonomy.